The pipe wrench slipped from my greasy fingers as my phone buzzed against the kitchen counter. 9:30 on a Tuesday night, and I'm elbowed deep in the mess under our kitchen sink while my wife Jessica is out at another client meeting. The caller ID showed her smiling face from our honeymoon 5 years ago, back when I thought real estate agents actually worked normal hours. "Hey, babe," I answered, wedging the phone between my shoulder and ear. "How's the showing going?" "Oh, you know." Her voice sounded breathless, distracted. In the background, I caught something that made me froze. Deep male laughter. The kind that comes after a private joke. "It's running really late. Don't wait up for me." Okay, before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I straightened up so fast I cracked my skull on the pipe joint. "Jessica, where exactly are you right now?" "The Riverside property. Remember the one I told you about this morning?" More laughter in the background, closer this time. A man's voice mumbled something I couldn't catch, but Jessica giggled in response. "Listen, I should probably focus here. This could be a big commission. At 9:30 at night, you know how it is with out-of-town buyers. They work around their schedule, not mine." The line crackled, and I heard what sounded like music. Definitely not the soundtrack to a property showing. "I'll probably be really late, so don't worry if I'm not home until morning." My grip tightened on the wrench until my knuckles went white. "Take your time, Jessica. Really, take all the time you need. I'll use the extra hours to pack your things." The line went silent except for that music in the background. Then Jessica's voice, sharp and panicked. "What did you just say?" "You heard me." I was surprised by how calm I sounded inside. My chest felt like someone had detonated a grenade. "Don't rush home on my account." I hung up and stared at the phone for 30 seconds, watching her name flash as she tried to call back. Then I powered it off and grabbed my keys. My brother Danny lived 20 minutes away in a converted garage behind his used car lot. I found him under the hood of a '98 Camaro, cursing at something involving spark plugs and divine intervention. "Tommy." He looked up, grease streaking his forehead. "What's wrong? You look like someone ran over your dog." "Worse. I need your truck and maybe 2 guys who don't ask questions." Danny wiped his hands on a shop rag, studying my face. We'd been through enough together. Our old man's drinking, Mom's cancer, my brief and unsuccessful boxing career. That he could read my moods like weather patterns? "How bad are we talking here?" "Moving day bad." He nodded once and reached for his phone. "I know just the guys." An hour later, we stood in my living room with Danny's crew. Big Mike from the auto shop, and Carlos, who did construction work when he wasn't helping people relocate their problems. Jessica's Honda wasn't in the driveway, which meant she was either still at her client meeting or working up the courage to come home and lie to my face. "Where do we start?" Danny asked. "Bedroom. Everything that's hers goes into boxes. I want it neat and organized, like a professional moving service handled it." We worked in systematic silence. Jessica's clothes, her jewelry box, her collection of self-help books about maximizing your potential and manifesting abundance. Her laptop sat open on the dresser, still logged into Facebook. I was about to close it when something caught my eye. A message notification from someone named Brad Kellerman. The preview showed a shirtless gym selfie and the words, "Can't wait for tomorrow night." My hands shook as I clicked on the message thread. 6 months of conversations scrolled past. Hotel room numbers, explicit photos, detailed plans for their next workout session, references to my work schedule, how I'd be out of town on insurance claims, how I was too boring and never paid attention anyway. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how stupid they thought I was. Jessica had saved everything. Screenshots of our joint bank account, photos of our house, long discussions about how much money she could get in a divorce, especially if she could prove I was emotionally unavailable or possibly having an affair. "Holy," Danny whispered, reading over my shoulder. "Tommy, I'm sorry, man." I scrolled through Brad's Facebook profile. Married to a woman named Jessica, 2 young kids, personal trainer at Fitness First downtown, posted motivational quotes about integrity and being your best self between shirtless mirror selfies. "Mike," I called. "You still got that printer in your van?" "Yeah, why?" "I need about 50 pages of evidence printed, high quality." While Mike set up the printer, I created a folder on Jessica's desktop labeled Evidence, Adultery, Divorce Proceedings, and started organizing screenshots. Every message, every photo, every hotel receipt she'd photographed and sent to Brad as proof of their adventures. Then I found Jessica Kellerman's Facebook profile and sent her a private message. "Hi, Jessica. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk about our spouses. I have some information you're going to want to see." She responded within minutes. "Who is this?" I sent her 3 screenshots, enough to make the situation crystal clear, but not enough to overwhelm her. "My name is Tommy Mitchell. My wife Jessica has been having an affair with your husband Brad for 6 months. I just found out tonight. I thought you deserved to know." The typing indicator showed she was composing a response for a long time. Finally. "Can you prove this?" I sent her 20 more screenshots, including several photos Brad had sent of himself in their bedroom, Jessica's bedroom, based on the family photos visible in the background. Her response was immediate. "I'm calling my lawyer tonight." "Thank you for telling me. I'm sorry this happened to both of us," I typed back. "Don't be sorry. Be ready to help each other through the divorce proceedings. I have a feeling we're going to need all the evidence we can get." I showed the conversation to Danny, who let out a low whistle. "Damn, Tommy, you work fast." "I'm just getting started." We finished packing Jessica's belongings into neat, labeled boxes. Her entire life fit into the back of Danny's pickup truck with room to spare. I changed the locks while the guys loaded everything onto the front porch, then sat down to wait. Jessica's Honda pulled into the driveway at 11:47 p.m. I watched through the window as she sat in the car for several minutes, probably trying to figure out what to say. Her hair was messy, her lipstick gone, and she'd put her blouse on inside out. She tried her key 3 times before knocking on the door. Tommy, open up. My key isn't working." I opened the door and handed her the printed folder. "I think you dropped this." Her face went white as she flipped through the pages. Behind her, Danny and the guys leaned against the truck, arms crossed, watching the show. "Tommy, this isn't what it looks like." "Really? Because it looks like 6 months of you sleeping with Brad Kellerman while I worked overtime to pay for this house and your car and your credit card bills." "You went through my private messages." "Your laptop was open. I was being helpful." I held up my phone, showing Jessica's latest text. "Divorce papers filed. Brad's moving out tomorrow. Thanks again." Brad's wife appreciated the help too. Jessica grabbed my arm. "You sent these to Jessica. Tommy, you don't understand. Brad said he was getting divorced anyway." "He said a lot of things, most of them while he was taking pictures in your hotel rooms." I pulled my arm free. "Your stuff's on the porch. You've got 10 minutes to load it before I call the cops for trespassing." "This is my house too. Check the deed. It's in my name. The mortgage is in my name. The utilities are in my name." I stepped back inside. "You've got 9 minutes now." She spent the next hour alternating between tears, threats, and promises to make this right. Danny and the guys helped her load the boxes into her Honda, professional and polite as funeral directors. When she finally drove away, she rolled down the window for one last shot. "You'll regret this, Tommy. You have no idea what you're giving up." I waited until her taillights disappeared, then looked at Danny. "You know what? I think I'm just getting started." Danny grinned and cracked open a beer. So, what's the plan? Simple. They wanted to play games? Let's see how they handle someone who actually knows the rules. By Thursday morning, the whole neighborhood knew. Mrs. Patterson from next door brought over a casserole and enough questions to fill a police report. The mailman, Jerry, lingered an extra 5 minutes asking if I was holding up okay. Even the kid who delivered groceries wanted to know if it was true that Jessica had been stepping out. Small towns are like that. Secrets have a half-life of about 6 hours before they mutate into public entertainment. I was drinking coffee on the front porch, enjoying the show, when my phone rang. Jessica's name flashed on the screen. What do you want? We need to talk like adults. Adults don't sleep around behind their spouse's back for 6 months. But sure, talk. Meet me at Rosie's Diner in an hour. And Tommy, don't bring your audience. Rosie's Diner sat on Main Street like a time capsule from 1955, complete with red vinyl booths and a jukebox that still played Buddy Holly. Jessica was already there when I arrived, sitting in the back corner booth, sunglasses on despite being indoors. She dressed carefully, conservative blouse, minimal makeup, the outfit she wore when she wanted to look trustworthy for difficult clients. You look like I said, sliding into the booth across from her. Thanks. You look... She paused, studying my face. Actually, you look better than you have in months. Funny how getting rid of dead weight will do that. The waitress, Dolores, approached with coffee and the kind of eager expression that meant she'd be sharing this conversation with half the town before dinner. The usual, Tommy. Just coffee, thanks. And for you, hun? Dolores asked Jessica with barely concealed contempt. Nothing. I won't be staying long. When Dolores left, Jessica leaned forward. Tommy, I know you're hurt. Hurt? I'm not hurt. I'm impressed. 6 months of scheduling, hotel bookings, elaborate lies about client meetings, that takes real commitment. It wasn't supposed to happen. Brad and we just connected at the gym and save it. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recording app. Actually, don't save it. Keep talking. My lawyer's going to love this. Jessica's eyes widened. You're recording me? Public place, one-party consent state. Everything you say right now could end up in court. I leaned back, enjoying her panic. So, tell me more about how you and Brad just connected. Turn that off. Make me. She reached for the phone, but I pulled it back. Careful, Jessica. Assault charges won't help your case. What case? What are you talking about? The divorce case? The one where I get everything because you committed adultery? The one where your boyfriend loses his job, his wife, his kids, and probably his house. I took a sip of coffee. Speaking of which, how's Brad doing? I heard Jessica cleaned out their joint account yesterday. Jessica's face crumpled. She took everything. She even called his boss at the gym. Brad got fired this morning. Huh? That's unfortunate. Tommy, you have to understand. Our marriage was already over. We haven't been happy for years. I was happy. I was working 60-hour weeks to pay for your happiness. But I was content. I stopped the recording and pocketed the phone. The difference is, I thought we were building something together. You thought I was a paycheck with benefits. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed loud enough that Dolores looked over from behind the counter. You want to talk about fair? Let's discuss the $15,000 you spent on hotel rooms and dinners with Brad. Money from our joint account. Money I earned. I was going to pay it back with what? Your commission checks that you've been hiding in a separate account for 8 months? Her mouth fell open. How did you find out about your secret account, Jessica? You saved screenshots of the statements on your laptop, right next to the naked pictures of your boyfriend. I stood up and dropped a $5 bill on the table. Here's some free advice. Next time you want to have an affair, don't document everything like you're writing a how-to manual. Wait, she grabbed my wrist. Tommy, please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling, start over. Start over. I looked down at her hand on my arm. Jessica, you spent 6 months planning to divorce me and take half of everything I've worked for. You called me boring, stupid, and emotionally unavailable to a man who was sleeping with you in hotels I paid for. You want to start over? Start with someone else. I pulled free and walked toward the door. Behind me, Jessica's voice rose to a level that guaranteed everyone in the diner would hear. You'll never find anyone else, Tommy. You're a 38-year-old insurance adjuster with no ambition and no future. I was the best thing that ever happens to you. I turned back, grinning. You know what, Jessica? You're absolutely right. You were the best thing that happens to me. Past tense. Thanks for the reminder. The diner erupted in whispers before I even reached the parking lot. My phone rang as I got in my car. Unknown number. Tommy Mitchell speaking. This is Jessica Kellerman, Brad's wife. Well, soon-to-be ex-wife. I was wondering if you had time to meet today. I think we can help each other. What did you have in mind? Revenge. The legal, public, and absolutely devastating kind. I checked my watch. I like the way you think, Jessica. Where do you want to meet? Do you know the Starbucks on Elm Street? I'll be there in 20 minutes. Jessica Kellerman turned out to be a small, fierce woman with the kind of smile that probably made Brad nervous even before she found out about the affair. She'd claimed a corner table and had a laptop open surrounded by printed documents and legal pads covered in notes. Tommy. She stood up as I approached. Thank you for coming, and thank you for telling me the truth about my husband. Thank you for filing for divorce so fast. Jessica looked like someone had kicked her puppy when she told me Brad got fired. Oh, that was just the beginning. Jessica's smile turned predatory. Sit down. I want to show you something interesting. She turned the laptop toward me. The screen showed Brad's Instagram account, but something was different. Instead of his usual motivational quotes and gym selfies, his recent posts had been replaced with screenshots of his messages to Jessica. How did you? I've had his passwords for 3 years. He never changed them. She scrolled through the posts. I thought his followers should know what kind of motivation he really provides. The comments were brutal. Former clients expressing disgust, gym buddies roasting him, even his own family members weighing in with disappointment and anger. Jesus, Jessica, you're ruthless. I'm just getting started. Look at this. She opened a new browser tab showing a Yelp page for Fitness First Gym. Recent reviews mentioned Brad by name, warning other women about his unprofessional conduct and inappropriate relationships with clients. You wrote all these? I wrote the first one. The others are from women who apparently had their own experiences with my husband. She closed the laptop. Turns out Jessica wasn't his first affair. She was just the sloppiest. I felt a strange mix of vindication and nausea. How many others? At least 3 that I can prove. Maybe more. Jessica's voice stayed steady, but her hands shook slightly as she reached for her coffee. The good news is, it makes the divorce proceedings very straightforward. The bad news is, I wasted 12 years of my life on a serial cheater. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be helpful. I have a plan, but I need someone who knows Jessica's weaknesses. What kind of plan? Jessica leaned forward, lowering her voice. The kind that ensures they both remember this lesson for the rest of their lives. Saturday morning, I decided to join a gym, specifically Fitness First, where Brad used to work before Jessica's phone call got him fired. I figured it was time to get back in shape, and what better motivation than the possibility of running into my wife's ex-boyfriend? The gym was exactly what I expected. Mirrors everywhere, the smell of sweat and disinfectant, and enough testosterone in the air to fuel a small war. I signed up for a day pass and spent 20 minutes reacquainting myself with the weight machines, trying to remember the basics from my boxing days. I was working through a set of bench presses when I spotted him. Brad Kellerman, even bigger in person than in his selfies, was loading plates onto a squat rack with the kind of aggressive intensity that screamed, "My life is falling apart and I'm taking it out on inanimate objects." He looked like his usual perfect hair was greasy and unkempt. His eyes were bloodshot, and he had the pale, sweaty look of someone who hadn't slept in days. Good. I finished my set and walked over to the water fountain, positioning myself where he'd have to see me. It took about 30 seconds. Brad's voice carried across the gym floor. "You're Jessica's husband." "Ex-husband, technically. The papers were filed yesterday." I took a slow drink of water, then turned to face him. "You must be Brad. I've heard so much about you." He stepped closer, trying to use his size advantage to intimidate me. It might have worked if I hadn't spent 2 years getting punched in the face by guys twice his size. "You ruined my life, you piece of—" "I ruined your life." I laughed loud enough that other gym members started to notice. "Brad, I just shared some information. You're the one who decided to document your affair like you were making a documentary. You had no right." "I had every right. She's my wife." "You're married to someone else. The math isn't complicated." Brad's face flushed red. "Jessica said you were boring and pathetic. She said you couldn't satisfy her. And yet she stayed married to me while sleeping with you in hotel rooms." I shrugged. What does that say about your performance? The gym had gone quiet around us. Even the music seemed muted. I could see phones coming out, people positioning themselves to record whatever happened next. "You want to take this outside?" Brad stepped even closer, close enough that I could smell his protein shake breath. "Why would I want to do that? I'm not the one whose life is falling apart." I gestured around the gym. "Although I guess you're not technically employed here anymore, so maybe you should be the one leaving." "Screw you. No thanks. I've seen where you've been." That's when Brad made his mistake. He shoved me hard enough to send me stumbling backward into the water fountain. It wasn't a punch, but it was assault, and it happened in front of 20 witnesses with phones. I straightened up slowly, wiping water off my shirt. "That was stupid, Brad." "Yeah? What are you going to do about it?" I smiled and pulled out my phone. "I'm going to call the police and file assault charges. Then I'm going to send the security footage to Jessica's lawyer as evidence of your violent tendencies. Should help with the custody hearing." The blood drained from Brad's face. "You wouldn't try me." For a moment, I thought he might actually throw a punch. His fists were clenched, his whole body coiled like a spring. But Brad was a bully, and bullies fold when someone calls their bluff. "This isn't over," he muttered. "You're right. It's not over. It's just getting started." I looked around at the crowd of gym members, all recording, all listening. "Hey everyone, this is Brad Kellerman. Maybe you've seen his Instagram posts about his affair with my wife, or the Yelp reviews about his professional conduct. Just thought you should know who you're working out with." The crowd murmured, phones still recording. Brad looked around desperately, realizing that his humiliation was being broadcast in real time. "You're all pathetic," he snarled, then stormed toward the exit. "Have a great workout, Brad," I called after him. "Oh, wait, you don't work here anymore. My mistake." The gym erupted in laughter and scattered applause. I finished my workout in peace, fielding congratulations and offers to buy me drinks from complete strangers. By the time I got home, the video was already online. Someone had posted it to the local Facebook community page with the caption, "Cheating husband gets owned at Fitness First." It had 47 likes and counting. My phone rang. "Jessica, what the hell is wrong with you?" "Good afternoon to you too, Jessica. How's your day going?" "You humiliated Brad in front of everyone. The video is everywhere." "I didn't humiliate Brad. Brad humiliated Brad. I just provided context." "He's talking about pressing charges for harassment." "Good luck with that. I was working out at a public gym when he assaulted me." There's video evidence of everything that happened. You planned this. You went there specifically to start trouble. I went there to exercise. If Brad couldn't handle seeing me, he should have stayed home. I paused. Speaking of which, where exactly is home for Brad these days? I heard Jessica kicked him out. Silence on the other end of the line. Jessica, you still there? He's staying at a motel until he finds an apartment. How romantic. Nothing says true love like a weekly rate at the Sunset Inn. You're enjoying this? I really am. Thanks for asking, Tommy. This has to stop. Brad is talking about doing something stupid. Like what? Having an affair with a married woman? Documenting it in explicit detail? Assaulting her husband in public? I laughed. I think Brad's already covered the stupid bases. He's not thinking clearly. He's angry and desperate, and he blames you for everything that's happened. Good. He should blame me. I'm the one who exposed his, what if he tries to hurt you? I considered that for a moment. Brad was bigger than me, but he was also soft, used to intimidating people with his size rather than actually fighting. And he was emotional, which meant he'd make mistakes. Let him try, Jessica. I've got nothing left to lose, and he's got everything left to lose. We'll see who blinks first. Tommy, I have to go. Jessica and I are meeting for dinner to discuss strategy. Strategy for what? Phase 2. I hung up and immediately called Jessica. How did it go at the gym? She asked. Better than expected. Brad assaulted me in front of 20 witnesses, and the whole thing's on video. Perfect. That gives me more ammunition for the custody hearing. She paused. Are you ready for the next step? What did you have in mind? Jessica's boss. I did some research, and I found something interesting about her employment situation. What kind of interesting? The kind that could end her career. Are you free tonight? I think it's time we paid a visit to Pinnacle Reale. Pinnacle Reale occupied a converted Victorian house on the edge of downtown, all exposed brick and modern furniture designed to make clients feel like they were buying into a lifestyle rather than just a house. I'd been there exactly once for Jessica's office Christmas party, where I'd spent 2 hours listening to real estate agents discuss market trends and commission splits, while I nursed warm beer and wondered why I'd agreed to come. Jessica had done her homework. She'd spent the weekend researching Jessica's boss, Richard Hawthorne, and what she'd found was fascinating. He's been investigated twice by the state licensing board, she explained as we sat in her car across the street from the office. Once for misrepresenting property values, once for failing to disclose flood damage. Both times he got off with warnings. So he's sleazy. That's not exactly breaking news. That's not the interesting part. The interesting part is who testified as a character witness both times. She handed me a printed document from the state licensing board's website. Jessica's name was highlighted in yellow, along with her statement that Richard Hawthorne was a man of impeccable integrity who always put his clients' interests first. Jessica vouched for him twice. And look at this. Jessica showed me another document, this one from the county clerk's office. Jessica bought her Honda 3 years ago, paid cash, $28,000. So according to her tax returns, which Brad photographed and sent to me because he's an idiot, she made $32,000 in commissions that year before taxes. I stared at the documents, pieces clicking into place. Where did she get the money? That's what we're going to find out. The Pinnacle Reale office stayed open until 8 p.m. on weekdays to accommodate clients who worked normal jobs. We waited until 7:45 when most of the agents had gone home, then walked in like potential buyers. Richard Hawthorne was exactly what Central Casting would order for a sleazy real estate broker. Expensive suit, too much cologne, and the kind of smile that made you want to count your fingers after shaking hands. He was alone in the office, working late on what looked like paperwork. Good evening. I'm Richard Hawthorne, owner and principal broker. How can I help you folks tonight? We're interested in buying a house, Jessica said smoothly. Something in the 200,000 range.
We heard great things about your agency.
Wonderful. Please, have a seat. Can I get you coffee, water? We settled into the leather chairs across from his desk. The office walls were covered with awards, licenses, and photos of Richard with various local politicians and business leaders. Now, what kind of property are you looking for? Richard asked, pulling out a legal pad. Actually, I said, we were hoping to work with Jessica Mitchell. We heard she's one of your best agents. Richard's smile flickered for just a moment. Jessica is no longer with our agency. Oh no, what happened? She seems so professional. Personnel matters are confidential, of course, but let's just say Jessica's priorities weren't aligned with our company values. Jessica leaned forward. That's surprising. We heard she was very successful here. Didn't she win some kind of award last year? Jessica did well for herself. Yes, perhaps too well, if you know what I mean. I exchanged glances with Jessica. Richard was practically begging us to ask follow-up questions. I'm not sure I understand, Jessica said. Richard glanced around the empty office, then leaned closer. Look, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but Jessica had some creative approaches to closing deals. Nothing illegal, you understand, but not exactly by the book either. What kind of creative approaches? Well, for instance, she had a way of finding out information about competing offers that gave her clients significant advantages, information that wasn't exactly public knowledge. How would she get that kind of information? Richard's smile turned predatory. Jessica was very good at building relationships with people in the industry, inspectors, appraisers, other agents. She understood that information is the most valuable commodity in real estate. I felt sick. Are you saying she was bribing people? I'm saying Jessica understood how business really works in this town, and she was compensated accordingly for her insights. Jessica pulled out her phone and opened the voice recording app, holding it low so Richard couldn't see. Compensated how? Bonuses, performance incentives, ways of showing appreciation that don't necessarily show up on the books, if you catch my meaning. Off the books, payments. Richard suddenly seemed to realize he'd said too much. Now, wait a minute. I never said anything about you said Jessica received payments that don't show up on the books. I interrupted for information she obtained through bribing inspectors and appraisers. That sounds like fraud to me. I think you should leave. I think you should keep talking, Jessica said, still recording, because if you don't, our next conversation is going to be with the state licensing board and the IRS, and probably the district attorney. Richard's face went white. Who are you people? I'm Tommy Mitchell, Jessica's husband, and this is Jessica Kellerman, Brad's wife. I smiled. You remember Brad, right? Jessica's boyfriend? The one she was having intimacy while using your dirty money to pay for hotel rooms? I don't know what you're talking about. Jessica held up her phone, showing the recording app. We have everything you just said about bribes, off-the-books payments, and fraud. Want to tell us more? Or should we take this to the authorities? Richard stared at the phone for a long moment, then slumped back in his chair. What do you want? The truth, I said. All of it. For the next 20 minutes, Richard Hawthorne laid out a corruption scheme that would have impressed organized crime, bribes to inspectors to overlook problems, kickbacks from mortgage brokers for steering clients to predatory loans, false appraisals that inflated property values, and at the center of it all, Jessica, who had been Richard's star player for 3 years. She was perfect for it, Richard explained. Beautiful, charming, smart enough to keep her mouth shut. Clients trusted her, and other agents underestimated her. How much money are we talking about? Jessica asked. Jessica probably made an extra $50,000 a year in bonuses and kickbacks, maybe more in good years. I thought about our joint tax returns, where Jessica had reported exactly what her legitimate commissions should have been. She never declared any of this income. Of course not. That was the whole point. And you have records of these payments? Richard's eyes darted toward a filing cabinet in the corner, I keep records of everything. Insurance. You understand? Show us. I can't do that. It would implicate you in crimes you've already confessed to. I pointed out the question is whether you want to cooperate with us or explain everything to federal investigators.
Richard opened the filing cabinet with shaking hands and pulled out a thick folder labeled Special Incentives Smitchell. Inside were copies of checks, cash withdrawal receipts, and detailed records of every bribe and kickback Jessica had been involved in.
Jesus, Jessica whispered, flipping through the documents. This is enough to put both of you in prison. What do you want? Richard asked again. I looked at Jessica, who nodded. We want copies of everything, and we want you to write a detailed confession explaining Jessica's role in your fraud scheme. Sign it, date it, and have it notarized. And if I do that, then we take our evidence to Jessica first before we go to the authorities. Give her a chance to make things right. And if she doesn't, I smiled. Then we burn down everything she's built, with your help. Richard spent the next hour writing out a confession that read like a crime novel. Jessica and I took turns reading over his shoulder, making sure he included every detail. When he finished, we drove to a 24-hour UPS store and had the document notarized by a sleepy clerk who probably thought we were signing divorce papers. What now? Jessica asked, as we sat in the parking lot, copies of Richard's confession in hand. Now we give Jessica a choice, I said. She can come clean about everything. The affair, the fraud, the hidden income. And maybe we can work out a reasonable divorce settlement. And if she doesn't, then we destroy her. My phone buzzed with a text message from Jessica. We need to talk. Brad is missing. I'm scared. I showed the message to Jessica, who laughed. Scared? She should be terrified. We're just getting started. Jessica was waiting on my front porch when I got home, still wearing the same clothes from our meeting at the diner 3 days earlier. She looked like she hadn't slept, and her usually perfect makeup was smeared and patchy. Where have you been? She demanded as I walked up the steps. I've been calling you for hours. I've been busy learning about your side business with Richard Hawthorne. Her face went completely white. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. I unlocked the front door and walked inside, leaving it open behind me. You coming in, or are we going to discuss your fraud career on the porch where the neighbors can hear? Jessica followed me into the living room where I'd spent the evening organizing evidence. Richard's confession sat on the coffee table next to printouts of bank records, tax returns, and photographs of checks made out to Jessica for consulting services. Sit down, Jessica. We have a lot to discuss. She remained standing, staring at the documents. How did you get these? Richard was very cooperative once he realized the alternative was federal prison. I settled into my recliner, the same chair where I'd watched TV with Jessica 1,000 times, back when I thought we were building a life together. Did you know he keeps copies of everything? Every bribe, every kickback, every fraudulent deal you helped him close. Tommy, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You've been running fraud schemes for 3 years, hiding income from the IRS, and using the money to fund your affair with Brad. I picked up Richard's confession. According to this, you made over $150,000 in illegal payments, money you never declared, never shared, and never mentioned to your boring, stupid husband. Jessica finally sat down, collapsing onto the couch like her strings had been cut. It wasn't supposed to be like this. What was it supposed to be like? I was trying to build something, a future for us. Richard said, if I played along for a few years, I could start my own agency, be my own boss with stolen money, with opportunity. Tommy, you have no idea how the real estate business really works. Everyone does this stuff. Richard just got caught. Richard got caught because he's sloppy and greedy. You got caught because you're sloppy and greedy, and you documented your affair like you were writing a memoir. Jessica buried her face in her hands. What do you want? I want the truth. All of it. Starting with why Brad is missing. She looked up, tears streaming down her face. He came to see me yesterday. He was drunk, angry, talking about how you'd ruined his life. He said he was going to make you pay. Make me pay? How? I don't know. He was rambling about teaching you a lesson, showing you what happens to people who mess with him. Then he left, and I haven't heard from him since. I felt a cold knot forming in my stomach. Jessica, where did he go? I don't know. He's not answering his phone. He's not at the motel. Jessica says he hasn't been by the house. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. Tommy, I think he might do something stupid. My phone rang. Unknown number. Tommy Mitchell speaking. This is Detective Ray Santos with the County Sheriff's Office. We need to talk to you about Brad Kellerman. The knot in my stomach tightened. What about him? He was arrested this morning for breaking into your workplace. Apparently, he was looking for your personal information, home address, schedule, that sort of thing. I closed my eyes. Is he in custody? He made bail about an hour ago. Mr. Mitchell, has Mr. Kellerman made any threats against you? He assaulted me at a gym on Saturday. There's video evidence. We'll need you to come in and file a formal complaint. And, Mr. Mitchell, you might want to consider staying somewhere else for a few days until we can sort this out. I'm not running from that piece of... Sir, I understand your feelings, but Mr. Kellerman is not thinking rationally. He's lost his job, his family, his home. Men in his situation sometimes do desperate things. After I hung up, Jessica was staring at me with something that might have been concern, or might have been fear for her own safety. Tommy, maybe you should listen to the detective. Maybe you should tell me everything Brad said yesterday, word for word. Jessica closed her eyes, thinking, he said you destroyed his life for no reason. He said you were a pathetic loser who couldn't handle losing his wife to a better man. He said she paused. He said what? He said he was going to burn down your house with you inside it. The room went completely quiet, except for the sound of my heartbeat in my ears. And you didn't think to mention this earlier? I thought he was just drunk and angry. I didn't think he'd actually what? Actually break into my workplace looking for my address? Actually make good on his threats. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your wife chose the better man. Time for you to learn what that means. I showed the text to Jessica, whose face went even paler. He's lost his mind, she whispered. No, Jessica. He's finally showing his true colors. I stood up and walked to the window, checking the street for unfamiliar cars. The question is, what are you going to do about it? What do you mean? I mean, your boyfriend is threatening to kill me, and you're the only person who might be able to talk him out of it. I turned back to face her. So, you have a choice. You can help me end this, or you can explain to the police why you didn't report his threats when you had the chance. How can I help? I picked up my phone and opened the recording app. You're going to call Brad and convince him to meet you somewhere public, somewhere with security cameras and witnesses, and you're going to get him to confess to his threats on tape. He won't fall for that. He will if you tell him you've left me and want to be with him. Jessica stared at me. You want me to lie to him? I want you to clean up the mess you created before someone gets hurt. She was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. What do I say? Tell him you realized he was right. Tell him I'm not worth losing him over. Tell him you want to start fresh somewhere new. But first, you need to know he's not going to do anything that will get him arrested. And if he confesses, then we take the recording to the police and Brad goes to jail for making terrorist threats. Problem solved. Jessica dialed Brad's number with shaking hands. It went to voicemail.
Brad, it's me. I've been thinking about what you said yesterday. And you're right. Tommy isn't worth losing you over.
I left him tonight, and I want to be with you. But we need to talk first. Meet me at the Riverside Diner in an hour. I love you. She hung up and looked at me. What if he doesn't show? Then we go to Plan B. What's Plan B? I smiled grimly. Plan B is where I stop playing defense and start playing offense. My phone rang 20 minutes later.
Brad, you bastard.
Good evening, Brad. How's the motel treating you?
Jessica told me what you did, threatening her, forcing her to choose between us.
Actually, Brad, I think you're confused. Jessica chose you 6 months ago. She just forgot to mention it to me. She's done with you. We're leaving town together, starting fresh. That's great news. When are you leaving? Tonight, right after I finish some business. What kind of business? Brad laughed, and it sounded completely unhinged. The kind that teaches people not to play with other people's lives. Brad, whatever you're planning, what I'm planning is to show you what happens when you mess with the wrong person. You destroyed my marriage, my job, my reputation. Now it's your turn. Your marriage was already over. Your job was a joke, and your reputation was built on lies. Screw you, Tommy. By tomorrow morning, you'll understand what real loss feels like. The line went dead. I looked at Jessica, who had gone completely pale. He's not meeting me at the diner, is he? No. He's coming here. What do we do? I walked to the closet and pulled out my old baseball bat, the Louisville Slugger I'd used in high school. We wait. Tommy, maybe we should call the police. And tell them, what? That my wife's boyfriend made vague threats? They can't do anything until he actually commits a crime. What if he has a gun? Then we'll deal with that when it happens. Jessica stood up, pacing nervously. This is insane. I'm calling 911. Go ahead. But while you're on the phone with them, explain why you didn't report his threats yesterday when you had the chance. She stopped pacing and stared at me. You're enjoying this? I'm not enjoying anything, Jessica, but I'm not running either. Brad wants to finish this. Fine. Let's finish it. Outside, a car door slammed. Brad's pickup truck sat in my driveway like a threat made manifest. Through the living room window, I could see him sitting behind the wheel, talking on his phone, probably working up the courage for whatever he had planned. He's just sitting there, Jessica whispered from beside me. Good. Let him think. My phone buzzed with another text. Come outside. We need to talk. I showed it to Jessica, who grabbed my arm. Don't go out there. I'm not going anywhere. If Brad wants to talk, he can come to the door like a civilized person. Another text. You have 30 seconds or I'm coming in. Call 911. I told Jessica, tell them a man with a gun threatening to break into your house. Does he have a gun? I don't know, but the police will respond faster if they think he does. Jessica dialed with shaking fingers while I positioned myself behind the front door, baseball bat in hand. Outside, Brad's truck door slammed again, followed by heavy footsteps on the porch. The doorbell rang. Tommy, I know you're in there. Open the door. I stayed silent, listening to Jessica give our address to the 911 dispatcher. Brad pounded on the door. You want to play games? Fine. Let's play games. The pounding stopped, and I heard footsteps moving around the side of the house. A moment later, something crashed in the kitchen. The sound of breaking glass. He's breaking in, I called to Jessica, who was still on the phone with 911. More crashing sounds from the back of the house. Then Brad's voice. Tommy, where are you? You piece of... I motioned for Jessica to stay in the living room while I crept toward the kitchen. Brad had thrown a patio chair through the sliding glass door and was climbing through the wreckage, bleeding from cuts on his arms, but too angry or drunk to care.
"There you are," he snarled when he saw me. "Ready to have that conversation?"
The police are on their way, Brad. You should leave.
"The police can go screw themselves. This is between you and me."
He stepped fully into the kitchen, glass crunching under his boots. In the light, I could see that he was drunk, his eyes bloodshot and unfocused, his movements unsteady.
"What do you want, Brad?" "I want my life back. I want my wife back. I want my job back. I want everything you took from me."
I didn't take anything from you. I just showed people who you really are. He lunged toward me, but I stepped back into the hallway, keeping the baseball bat between us. You destroyed everything because you couldn't handle losing Jessica to a better man. Jessica made her choice 6 months ago. The only thing I did was make it public. Brad followed me into the hallway, weaving slightly. She chose me. She loves me. She was going to leave you anyway. Then why are you here instead of driving off into the sunset together? For a moment, confusion flickered across Brad's face. We're leaving tonight after I finish this. Finish what, exactly? Making you pay for what you did. And how exactly are you planning to make me pay? Brad reached into his jacket and pulled out something that made my blood freeze. A small gasoline can, the kind used for lawnmowers. I'm going to burn down your house with you inside it. Just like you burned down my life, Brad. That's murder. You'll go to prison for the rest of your life. I don't give a shit anymore. You took everything from me. Now I'm taking everything from you. He unscrewed the cap on the gasoline can and started splashing fuel on the walls and floor. The smell filled the hallway, sharp and dangerous. Jessica, I called. Get out of the house, now! But Jessica appeared at the other end of the hallway, staring in horror at Brad and his gasoline can. Brad, what are you doing? I'm finishing what Tommy started, he said without looking at her. Don't worry, baby. After this, we can go anywhere. Start fresh. Brad, this is insane. Put that down. You said you wanted to be with me. You said Tommy wasn't worth it. I lied. Jessica screamed. I was trying to get you to confess to threatening him. Tommy recorded the whole thing. Brad stopped pouring gasoline and turned to stare at Jessica. What? The phone call, the meeting at the diner, all of it. It was a setup to get evidence against you. Brad's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, betrayal, and finally pure rage. You lying witch. Brad, please. You're both liars. He threw the gasoline can at the wall, splashing fuel everywhere. You deserve each other. That's when I heard the most beautiful sound in the world. Police sirens getting closer. It's over, Brad. I said, the police are here. Put your hands up and maybe you won't get shot. Screw that. Brad pulled out a cigarette lighter. If I'm going down, I'm taking both of you with me. He flicked the lighter and a small flame appeared. I had maybe 2 seconds to act. I raised the baseball bat and charged, swinging for his wrist. The bat connected with a solid crack, and the lighter went flying, skittering across the floor away from the gasoline. Brad screamed and clutched his wrist, which was bent at an unnatural angle. You broke my arm! Good. The front door exploded inward as police officers poured into the house, guns drawn. Drop the weapon, one of them shouted at me. I dropped the bat and raised my hands. The man on the floor broke into my house and threatened to burn it down. There's gasoline everywhere. 2 officers grabbed Brad, who was still writhing on the floor and cursing. Another officer approached me cautiously. Are you Tommy Mitchell? Yes. Are you injured? No, but my wife might be in shock. I looked around for Jessica and found her sitting on the living room floor, staring blankly at the chaos in the hallway. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" an officer asked her. She shook her head slowly. "I think I'm going to be sick." The next 2 hours were a blur of statements, evidence collection, and paramedics checking everyone for injuries. Brad was taken to the hospital under police guard, his wrist broken in 3 places. The fire department ventilated the house to clear the gasoline fumes. A crime scene photographer documented everything. Detective Santos arrived around midnight, looking tired but satisfied. "Well, Mr. Mitchell, it looks like your Brad problem is solved. Breaking and entering, criminal, threatening, attempted arson. He's looking at serious prison time. What about the other stuff? The fraud, the tax evasion? That'll be handled by federal investigators, but based on what you've given us, both your wife and her boss are looking at charges." I glanced over at Jessica, who was giving her statement to another detective. "What happens now?" "Now you get a good lawyer and try to put your life back together." Detective Santos closed his notebook. "For what it's worth, you handled this better than most people would have." "I had good help. The woman who called this in, Brad's wife, ex-wife. Yeah, Jessica's been instrumental." Detective Santos smiled. "Sounds like you've got some good people in your corner." After the police left, Jessica and I sat in the living room, surrounded by the wreckage of our old life. The sliding glass door was boarded up with plywood, the hallway wire of gasoline, and there were evidence markers everywhere. "So, what happens now?" Jessica asked. "Now you pack whatever you can carry and find somewhere else to stay. Tomorrow you call a lawyer and figure out how to minimize your prison sentence." "Tommy, I know I screwed up." "You didn't screw up, Jessica. You committed felonies, multiple felonies, for years. I was trying to build something for us. You were trying to build something for yourself. There's a difference." She was quiet for a long moment. "Are you going to be okay?" "I'm going to be fine. Better than fine, actually." "How can you say that? Your house is destroyed. Your marriage is over. You're probably going to be dragged through a federal investigation." "My house can be repaired. My marriage was over 6 months ago. I just didn't know it yet. And the federal investigation is going to clear me of any wrongdoing while putting you and Richard in prison." I looked around at the damage. For the first time in years, I know exactly where I stand. "I never meant for any of this to happen." "Yes, you did. Maybe not the Brad part, but everything else. You chose this, Jessica. Every lie, every secret account, every hotel room. You chose all of it." She started crying then, the kind of deep, ugly sobs that come when someone finally understands the magnitude of what they've lost. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix anything." My phone rang. "Jessica." "Tommy, I heard about what happened. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Brad's in custody. Jessica's facing federal charges, and I'm finally free to move on with my life." "Good." "Listen, there's something I wanted to ask you." "What's that?" "When all this legal stuff is settled, would you like to have dinner sometime, somewhere that doesn't involve revenge or fraud or arson?" I looked at Jessica, still crying on my couch, then at the boarded-up window and the evidence markers scattered around my house. "Jessica, I think I'd like that very much." "Good. I'll call you in a few days." After I hung up, Jessica looked at me with something that might have been jealousy. Jessica, Brad's ex-wife. Turns out she's smart, honest, and doesn't commit felonies for fun. "You're dating her?" "I'm not dating anyone yet, but when I'm ready, I'll probably start with someone who doesn't steal money and lie about it for 3 years. Jessica wiped her eyes and stood up. "I should go." "Yeah, you should." She gathered a few belongings and headed for the door, then turned back. "Tommy, for what it's worth, you were never boring. I was just too stupid to appreciate what I had." "You're right, Jessica. You were."
After she left, I sat alone in my damaged house, surrounded by the debris of my old life, and realized something surprising. I was happy. For the first time in months, maybe years, I was genuinely happy. My phone buzzed with a text from Danny. "Saw the news. You need help cleaning up?" I typed back, "Tomorrow. Tonight, I'm just going to sit here and enjoy the quiet." "You sure you're okay?" "I'm perfect." And for the first time in a long time, that was actually true. 6 months later, Jessica pled guilty to tax evasion and fraud charges and was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison. Richard Hawthorne got 3 years and lost his real estate license permanently. Brad was sentenced to 5 years for arson and breaking and entering, with a restraining order that would keep him away from me for the rest of his life. Jessica and I had been dating for 4 months, taking things slow and building something real on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. She was nothing like Jessica. Straightforward, where Jessica had been manipulative. Genuine, where Jessica had been calculating. Loyal, where Jessica had been selfish. My house was repaired and remodeled better than it had been before Brad's gasoline tantrum. I'd used some of the insurance money to update the kitchen and add a security system, but mostly I'd saved it for the future Jessica and I were building together. The day Jessica was released from prison, she called me. "Tommy, it's me." "I know who it is, Jessica. What do you want?" "I just wanted to say thank you." "For what?" "For not destroying me completely when you had the chance. For letting the legal system handle things instead of what you could have done." I thought about that for a moment. "Jessica, I never wanted to destroy you. I just wanted you to face the consequences of your choices. I know, and I have. Prison gives you a lot of time to think about the mistakes you've made." "Good. What are you going to do now?" "Start over. Somewhere far from here, with a job that doesn't involve lying to people." She paused. "I heard you're engaged." "I am. I'm happy for you. Really, Jessica seems like a good person." "She is, Tommy. I know this doesn't change anything, but I really am sorry for all of it." "I know you are, Jessica. And for what it's worth, I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for." "Thank you." After I hung up, Jessica looked at me curiously. "How do you feel?" "Grateful," I said. "Grateful that I found out who she really was before I wasted any more years on her. Grateful that Brad's in prison where he can't hurt anyone. Grateful that I met you. And grateful that you're not the kind of person who would actually destroy someone's life for revenge." I kissed her forehead. "That too, even though you could have." I thought about all the evidence I'd gathered, all the ways I could have made Jessica's punishment worse, all the opportunities I'd had to be truly vindictive, especially because I could have. The difference between justice and revenge is knowing when to stop. Jessica smiled. "That's why I fell in love with you. Just one of the reasons, I hope. One of many." We sat together on the porch of our rebuilt life, watching the sun set over the town where our story had begun with betrayal and ended with something much better. The truth and the freedom that comes with it. Some people get the revenge they think they want. Some people get the justice they actually need. And some people, if they're very lucky, get something better than either. A second chance to build a life with someone who deserves it.